Call the CUB Board of Directors meeting to order. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Motion and a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Motion carries. Moving to the approval of the CUB audits, I'm going to turn that over to General Manager.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. You know, we are very pleased to have two gentlemen that have been, Joe and I were talking, we have gone back to, so we were at the Corner Drug eating, I think it was pinto beans and chow chow and a chocolate milkshake, you know. He looked exactly like he does now. And so whatever magic he's doing, it's amazing. But that's when we were at the old building. We used to take a walk. And I remember having lunch down there, and I don't think you bought that then either, so. We remember those things, you know, so Dudley, I'm gonna turn it over to you you can introduce and you
Okay,
can start.
of course, we have Joe Brown here on the left, Jim Boer on the right. They come out, do our audits, and Joe his name's on the billboard there. Of course, Brown Jake McDaniel. Jim's not got there yet, but he is a partner in that, so he is pretty high up. And I don't know who's going to go first.
Well, first thing I want to say is I really want to thank you all for allowing us to do the audit of Clinton Utility Board again this year. We also want to thank your staff. They do a great job. Makes our audit a whole lot easier. And you all know that. You know how well blessed you all are with your staff and management here. As part of our audit, we actually issue two different reports. And I'm sure y'all have got copies of our financial statements and reports. But the first one is our independent auditor's report. And it basically says that we issue an unmodified, it's on page one, if you're looking for it, page one of your packet there. But it says we issue an unmodified opinion, which means it's a clean opinion, and that was for both departments. So secondly, we gave you another letter. It's called the Independent Auditor's Report on Internal Control. It's on page 32 of the Electric Department, on page 31 of the Water and Sewer Department. But basically, it doesn't give an opinion. It just goes through and gives you some information about the internal control and compliance issues. And as a result of that, we didn't find any material weaknesses or any non-compliance. So everything was good there. We looked at. And also, y'all noticed in that packet you got that management puts in a discussion and analysis section there, and that's on page 4 through 7, both the electric department and the sewer department. They just kind of give you some highlights of things that happened during the year, which really gives you a better insight when you look through the financial statements. And the last thing we do is we're required under professional standards to give you information about our responsibilities and also certain information as to how we plan and time our audit, and also whether or not we had any issues with any problems during the audit. And we're happy to tell you that there were no problems and we had no adjustments. And here again, no adjustments is big because you guys do a great job and your staff does a great job. And it's not too many audits that we do that we don't have adjustments, so you would be commended for that. And once again, I just want to thank you all for the opportunity. If you have any questions, Jim and I will try to answer them, but everything was really good this year. We found everything in good shape, and certainly you ought to be commended for that.
Steve, any questions? I'm good. Does Steve, any questions?
No, I do not. No. I would like to commend the Finance and Accounting Department and their work. They obviously got a good product they're producing. That's good. Stability is key in those areas.
And these numbers match what you saw in June. You know,
Matters.
they reclass a few things, so they might be grouped a little different. but when you get down to the bottom line, those numbers match what you saw in June, and that's credit to my whole department and the effort they do to reconcile those accounts every month to make sure that the receivables are in balance, the cash is in balance, and the sales all reconcile. So there's no surprises in there is what I'm trying to say, and that's what these gentlemen verify for us.
Y'all audit to GAP principles?
I'm sorry?
Y'all audit to GAP principles?
Yes, we do.
Does a utility like this have any oddities, exceptions, or things that don't exactly
Yeah,
fit?
government auditing standards, but they're pretty close to, you're pretty much the same thing. There's just a few different disclosures and reports that are required that you wouldn't normally find just in a normal GAP audit, but
FERC, because we're following the FERC, there's a different reporting in that too, and that's when it gets TVA involved, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. So we have to be in compliance with them also, and that's part of what an auditor would look at to make sure things match. In addition to what the independent audit does, TVA, we have to do a TVA report, and that is also then audited by TVA, and those numbers, in terms, although they ask for different things, you talk about basic financial statements and the financials and the depreciation and things like that, that all is also part of the TVA report. So for the electric department, there's almost like a double audit in that. And they've never, obviously, there's never been anything difference between one or the other. And I don't know that we've had different times with different firms, but with Dudley's, since he's been here, I don't think I know we've never had a qualified audit, or have we ever had any adjustments to the audit, and nor have we had that with TVA, nor have we had that with when we're looking at in lieu of tax, that formula and the calculations that we do for that, and I know that that's not the case everywhere. So, keep up the good work, because we got a big eyeball on you. It's pretty much how that works.
we're gonna let Jim, he's gonna discuss the pension audit for you.
To mirror a little bit about what Joe said, so we do present 3 separate audits, one for the electric department, one for the water
department, and then a third one for the pension plan. So they have similar reporting. So in this report, you also have our opinion on the financial statements, which is also an unmodified or clean opinion, as well as the additional report required by government auditing standards. Since you are a government entity, you're subject to government auditing standards, so that is at the back, and it addresses our consideration of internal controls over the pension plan versus over the water department and electric department. So both of those were clean, just like in all 3 reports. One thing I just really wanted to point out to you all, and I'm sure you've seen these reports, the pension plan also has no adjustments. We didn't change anything. As far as the return on investments, this year was significantly higher than the prior year, so you just had a much better, on the market, had a much better year, June of 21 versus June of 2020. And then also you had large distributions in the prior year for some long-term retirees that took their money out of the plan, so didn't have quite as many distributions in the current year, at least not to that magnitude. So your bottom line in the pension plan, while it was a deficit last year because of the large distributions, it's actually a $5 million increase this year, largely attributable to the return on investment. So that speaks to the investments that you have the funds in, the employees' funds in, and speaks to your fiduciary obligation to manage those funds and grow those funds for your people. So that was really the only thing I wanted to point out about the pension plan. We didn't have any adjustments, as I mentioned earlier, and it's a clean report, so happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Vicki, you have any questions?
I don't.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, with that, Jim Manager, is there any other
I
comments?
can tell you that
Ready for a motion?
that there is a required annual contribution that the state sets up for what the minimum that they will allow. So it's a required amount, and that's based on an interest assumption and the population data on how that eventually would work out. We do all of that, and that is Bob Cross's group that provides that number for us. And we have for, I don't know, at least 10 years or more, we've never been less than that, and we have always been more than that. So when you look the ratio to where we are in terms of funding, we're way, way ahead of the game. We're up, I don't know, 90+%, you know, which is 91.7. I was going to say that right to the degree, but the benchmark is still 80%. You really like to be north of 80%, and I know I was on the audit committee for Knox City, and they were running at 51%. You know, so I mean, it's a big thing to attain that 80% mark. It's a greater thing to attain above 90%. So all of that's we intend to continue to move north in that direction. One of the things that we'll be doing is the interest assumption, which is now at 7.5. You know, we're looking to reduce that assumption down 0.25%, and I think that'll come. Bob will probably bring that, and we've discussed that. What that'll actually mean is the contributions will have to be greater because the return will be assumed less, which really won't bother us because we always are in that higher tier anyway. So our contributions will still maintain a high rate, but we are going to assume that the return on that investment is a little bit lower, although this, if you look at this past year, you know, it's we're in double digits.
30%.
Yeah.
So you
It's
can't count on that every year, though.
We cannot count on that every year, but we will reduce that interest assumption and assume that we have good rates of return. That 91% is just going to go north. So that's what I see. That's what I have, and I recommend that the board receive and accept these audits, Mr. Chairman.
Do I hear a motion to approve the CUB audits for this previous fiscal year?
I'll make that motion.
Hear a second? Second. Any discussion, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries, and I think you gentlemen are excused. You can thank the general manager for putting you up front. Thank you.
Great guy.
And now we will move on to approval of vouchers. Everybody's got an opportunity to review the vouchers. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
With a motion and a second, is there any discussion?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
We were battling an issue with Wolf over pricing. Have we settled that, or we?
Yeah, we did. There was an increase in that, and they were, and I'm going to use the word gracious, and I think they were gracious to work with us. It was less than what they had hoped for. It's considerably less than what some of our neighbors are paying and have been paying. I think it's a very workable thing. Part of that is, and I attribute that to Todd's negotiation skills, and also we have an onboard arborist that in Greg McAnally who is now announced his retirement. We're training a replacement. Part of that requirement is that he also become a certified arborist, and I think working hand in hand with the foreman has really given us an edge on being able to negotiate a very favorable rate for us. But yes, that's been squared away, and we're moved forward on that.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Moving on to the approval of monthly reports, Mr. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Dudley, I'm going to turn this over to you in just one second. Because we're doing so well, I always like to to that preamble, so somehow I might get some of the credit for that, but financially, we continue to be in a very strong position, and we're thankful for that. I know many businesses have been struggling. We're not only are we doing well, we think our customers are doing well in terms of paying their bill. So we are ahead of budget in both the electric and water and sewer. And Dudley, if you want to be specific on anything, go ahead.
I will a little bit. What you have in front of you is through the month of November, and for the month of November, the electric department had a $111,000 net income, and the water and sewer had a $26,000 change in net assets. Compare that to year to date, the electric department is $129,000 ahead of the forecast. You can see our sales are a little bit higher, but our power cost is a little bit higher naturally, so that wasn't that much difference. But where we've saved money is in our expenses. Our operating expenses are down a little bit from what I had forecasted. Puts us $129,000, which I would say is on target, for this time of year. And in the water and sewer department, the water and sewer sales are down. The sewer sales are down quite a bit. That's mostly industrial sewer sales. You say, how can the water be just that and the sewer? Because some industries just use water and it doesn't impact the sewer. But we have a sewer customer, industrial customer that's figured out a way to reduce his sewer bill quite a bit, and that's why that's so different. But our expenses are down under $92,000, what we had expected at this point in time. So it all kind of works out, and we're $13,000 ahead of the forecast, right on target. And that's really all I got to say, unless you have specific questions.
Do you know how they? To me, I think sewer would be sewer would be sewer. How'd they figure out where to put their sewer? Go somewhere else?
They evaporate it. They evaporate it.
It's sewers based on water, and if they're using less water, then less comes through our system. So, and it's ingenious, and we helped them with that, and Greg was a part of that, because obviously we're in business to serve, and in serving we charge a fair price for what they use, but technology made it available to be these big evaporators, so the water goes through, and instead of coming through a drain, it really they do an evaporation process. So they use less water, and by using less water, there's less sewer.
Is that a type of technology that other industrial
No,
ports?
it has to be, it has to work within the system, because if there's any, if it goes through and there's metals associated with that, it has to be pre-treated and everything else. That just happened to be a good fit for that.
They probably have other costs to get to that, but in their mind, it works out to their advantage.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else have any other questions? Do I hear a motion to approve the monthly reports?
I'll make that motion.
In a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Moving to project status reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the electric, we are tracking 2 work orders. And Todd, if you want to speak to that?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, as manager said there, we got 2 work orders, large projects we're currently working on. The first is the 4-aught aerial cable on Mountain Road, which serves as a tie line between Bethel Road and Irwin Mill when it's done. So increase the capacity, reliability out there, and serve as a tie line between those 2 feeders. So give us automated switching capabilities. The second is a 336 aerial cable job up on Lake City Highway between Rocky Top all the way down to about 2.5 miles down through there. So again, replacing a line that was built in the early 70s, back behind all the houses, back in the fields, away from the road. A lot of reliability and access problems. So hopefully this will improve all of that and get it to where we, along the road, we can maintain it and keep it up a lot better. And is that any questions?
Any questions?
Water, we're tracking one work order over on Faust Corner. Greg, you want to speak anything to that?
Yes, it's, the actual, we had issues with it locating our water line, everything's delayed the project on the front end. But the contractor made up the time on that and we're 100% complete now. And the water line is in service and, been upgraded out there and tie-ins made. It's all good.
I can tell you too, to add a little bit to that, because it's a good place too. We are in constant, continuous, ongoing negotiations with ACWA on what makes good sense for our utility. Obviously, we're in 6 counties in electric, but normally for municipal water and sewer, it's generally within the confines of the city limits. Where we got out into the county was First Utility District. When South Clinton was annexed, they wanted to be part of the water and sewer system within the city, and to get them from FUD, we also had to take Claxton, and we have been improving that system ever since. But there is a moratorium on sewer in Claxton of what we can handle. We can't handle anymore, not one more customer on our system down there, so it inhibits the growth, and ACWA has sewer customers around there that also feeds into our main to get us back up to our wastewater treatment plant. What we're now negotiating with is a phasing in, and if it does make sense for a win-win for both utilities to do some type of purchase or swap for some of the facilities in the ground and then the customers associated with that. And I just want you to know that and I spoke with the board, I don't know, it's been a year, I think. We've been at this quite some time. We're continuing to move forward. I think we're getting closer to a time when I can bring a recommendation to the board on what I think would be a good win for CUB and a good win for ACWA, because I think we're committed. It has to be a win-win for both utilities or it's not going to work. So I just to say that in this time, and that's all I have for the project status, Mr. Chairman.
All righty, moving on to Agenda 8, approval of work order.
This work order involves the wastewater treatment plant, the Headworks, and what we're doing out there. And Greg, if I step out wrong, make sure it's seriously wrong before you correct me. If you know what we call material in the county, But essentially, we have got to comply with TDEC, and our permit, which what we have, it requires us to improve the hydraulics at the Headworks. Great. It makes so much more sense if you explain that than me tripping over myself. Would you mind just giving them a little heads up on what we're trying to do out there?
The Headworks is sized for 6 million gallons a day. With everything that is coming into the treatment plant and everything else, the drums on the front end, cleaning process and everything, it all has to be improved to remove the material. And then that process right there will also increase the size to 10 million gallons a day to let the flow travel through the plant easily without any backup surcharge or anything, events like that on the plant.
So essentially, there's screening in there too. Mm-hmm. And all of that has to be done because we have caught all kinds of stuff in that screening. Where there is blockage in that's where there's odor also. So that the Headworks, if you want to know how efficient your system is, stand on the Headworks. And if you don't smell anything, you're doing good. And that really is the case with us most of the time, unless we get what we call a slug coming down from somewhere. We're generally in pretty good shape on odor. Hopefully, as I've encouraged you, if you have any odor complaints, to let me know, and because we want to get right on it. And we used to have some quite, frequently, And I don't know of any that we even had in the last year, to tell you the truth. So this is a big project, and we have budgeted for this project. $750,000 is what the budget is, and we don't think that that's going to touch it when the reality of it comes out. You know, so this work order is really to do the design, you know, and we've got a contract coming up for C2RL to do the design work, so we can get when we bid it out, it'll be more defined and we can get a better number. You know, and that's $150,000, and that's the next item on the agenda, and we've got a $15,000 contingency. So the work order for the design of this headworks is $165,000. And that's gonna go into this greater number, $750,000, which we're concerned now when that does bid out, because of the supply chain, that it's gonna be greater than what we budgeted for. That's at least the flags that our consultants are giving us. So we want to get this done. This is going to have to be done no matter what it costs. So I recommend that the board approve the work order 1005 in the sewer department for $165,220.
Hear a motion to approve.
So motion.
A motion and a second. Any discussion?
Greg, do we have any constraints with the supply line system, materials or equipment or anything that we need we can't get?
Yes. Yeah, it's slow. There is a supply and demand works in a capitalist country. The more you want to pay, the quicker you're going to get it. But we see real serious delays in specialty items like pad mount transformers. You know, was 104 weeks?
The PO that was approved at last month's board meeting.
104 weeks, and now they've called us, and there's, in a month, they're saying, you know, the price that we gave you, we're not really happy with that anymore. A month, and they're saying, in 104 weeks, we need to charge you more if you still want this. You see, and they're only 1 month into a PO that's 2 years down the road.
Will they tell you how much more, or is that?
Yes, they will,
Okay.
you know, and later I'll tell you what the response was to that, so. But yes, we see that a lot. That, we're concerned about that. We have done and do a good job of keeping stock to keep things running. What could get us is new, you know. If a developer goes underground and they need pad mount transformers underground, unless they've got their own line on that, you know, which they can do under our new policies, we'll bid it out for them, and they'll have to pay whatever that is, and they'll have to deal with whatever the delivery time is. And we've got concerned about ongoing and projected subdivisions, even though we've communicated that stress point. I don't know. My hope is, and they've indicated that they do have a line on getting some of their own equipment. So that's what we're hoping for. But yes, I can see that to be a problem, because I'm not going to let our reserve go for new development when we've got folks that we've got a transformer go bad. I'm telling you, Steve, your way there was one that went bad, and if I told you, hey, I'm sorry, man, don't worry, a year and a half from now we're going to get right into that. You know, you would expect and demand that we have service, so we have those in reserve. So I'm not worried about what we currently are responsible for, but we're not going to stretch ourselves out there on new coming in.
All right, there was a motion and a second. Any other further discussion? Good question. All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries. Moving to item 9.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have on your board book a copy of this contract for professional service for this, and because of the the size of it at $150,000. I felt better bringing it to you all to get approval, and this is with C2RL for this wastewater treatment plant design. It's 50-some pages, Dudley. I went through the thing, and there's a lot to it, but we've got a great relationship with these folks, and they've been a lot of help to us over the years. I think it's fair and appropriate, and I agree with our Director, Greg Jones, who recommends that we execute this and engage them in this project. And I recommend to the board that they authorize me to execute this professional services agreement with C2RL.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Second, anyone? Second. All right, motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Moving to other business.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've just got one, because we reached I think what is a pretty good mile marker. So I thought I would bring that to your attention, and I just indulge the board for just a minute. Along with every power distributor in the valley, pays a monthly wholesale power bill. Last month it was about $5 million. And that includes an energy component and a demand component. So you'll have to follow me just a little bit on this. Try not to look at the screen. Dudley, take that off for a second.
All right.
Energy component, demand component. Energy is billed on the total amount consumed during the month. That's the energy. Whatever you use, that's what they're billed for. And the other component is a demand charge, and that's based on the single highest hour metered in the calendar month. What TVA does is it charges us and every other utility $10.35 for the average of each kW or kilowatt used in that magic 1 hour in the month. So, 10 light bulbs, 10 100-watt light bulbs, on for an hour. That's 1 kilowatt hour. 10 100-watt bulbs on for 1 hour. That's 1 kilowatt hour. We bill our customers about 10 cents for that. 10 light bulbs, 1 hour, 100-watt bulbs. TVA charges us a wholesale rate of about 7 cents for that. So we got a 3-cent margin on those light bulbs, right? In addition, if it's in the magic hour, they charge us $10.35 in addition to that. So we're ahead by 3 cents on the energy, and we're down $10.35 on the demand charge. That's a lot, to make that up. The demand is about a third of what our power bill is. So it's a big component in what we do. That's why the rest of the month we've got to people turn your lights on, because we need enough of those 3 cents to offset the $10.35, right? So we peaked last month on the 23rd of December for between 8 a.m. and 9 a.m. That was the magic hour for December. We had a peak of 114.69 megawatts, million watts. Big day. Based on that peak, TVA would charge us $1,187,000. Through our virtual power plant, we trimmed what we don't call peak shaving. We trimmed on that magic hour, we trimmed 7.3 megawatts, million watts. So what does that mean? We pay TVA demand charge of not for 114 megawatts, but 107. That's 7.3 megawatts less, and that converts to $74,417. So what we saw in December and what we were able to shave that peak, amounted to about $75,000 savings that our neighbors can't do. because you gotta start with intelligent meters, and they don't even have them fully deployed. They're just starting to deploy that now. We've been doing that, when did we do intelligent meters?
2007.
2007, and we went into this demand and energy in April of 2011. So what that means, and I'm going to get to this mile marker point that I want to talk to you about.
You want me to?
Dudley got mad because I told him to take that thing off. This is DVR, dynamic voltage regulation. You can't regulate if you don't know what the meter, the last meter, the volts at the last meter, because people's TV would go like this, you know. So they can't do it. They can't do it because they don't know what the end meters, what the volts are on that the end meters. So for DVR, dynamic voltage regulation, I've got it down since 2011, right up to 2021. Last year it was $747,953 is what we saved last year. Cumulatively, when this demand and energy started with TVA, 2011, and again, the others aren't doing this. Can't do it. When we did this in 2011, in addition to that, we got a $3.5 million award because TVA wanted to piggyback off of us to try to help other utilities to show that they could do it. They set a challenge out, and we were the first utility in the valley to meet and exceed that challenge. That's $3.5 million. But that doesn't include this. $7.7 million. Now, for our whole virtual power plant, which also include our next slide, you'll see, we've got the demand voltage, we've got our demand power partners was what we're doing in this partnership program, which is almost 1.8 million. I don't still know of another utility in the valley that has that. So we're still the only ones in the valley that have that. And for that, our ratepayers have saved $1.8 million, and we're at 512,000, which includes hot water heaters and things like that. Looking at these other numbers, that doesn't seem like much, but still $500,000. So the mile marker that we hit this month is why I wanted to bring it is we're now at $10 million. $10 million since 2011, and if you add that up on your fingers and toes, that's about $1 million a year that is segregated out from our friends, you know, who don't have the technology. And it's got nothing to do with Flizzer. It's got nothing to do with our line loss, which is millions of dollars savings that we have, and it's got nothing to do with our time of use rates that we put into effect and the millions of dollars associated with that. But that's for another day. But I'm just saying this is just our ability to peak shave and what we do with our virtual power plant, and it's a $10 million mile marker. And I've got copies. If anybody wants copies of those two slides, I've got that for them. And if anybody's got any questions on that, I'd be glad to discuss that with them.
Can we ensure that this gets included with our financials to send over to the city for me, please? Thank you.
I can do it.
Any other questions? Or great job. You know, I think that's very impactful. That's real money. That's real money at the time.
Bottom line, but
No doubt. So, yeah, this is the type of stuff, and it's hard to explain.
it is. That's where I got to the 10 light bulbs.
But, you know, I having sat here for a couple of years now, I fully understand what we're doing. And it's, at the end of the day, it's providing a tremendous service to our ratepayer, because that's $10 million that the utility didn't have to absorb. That
Or
our
have-
friends do.
Or have rates in order
Now
to
increase, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How many homes are we servicing?
Over 30,000.
30,000 into 10 million?
Yeah, that's
Over
right.
10 years?
That's right.
That's
Significant.
Yep.
Good stuff. Anything else to come before this board? Hearing none, I will call this meeting adjourned.